So in this lesson I wanted to cover off how to print your work, and that includes page setup and using print margins. And that might sound like a really straightforward thing to do, and it really should be in most cases, but the problem is with Excel that every spreadsheet you make is going to have a different number of columns in it and a different number of rows in it. It's not like using Microsoft Word where you've got a sheet of paper and everything you write automatically fits within that sheet of paper. It really depends on how much data you've actually added to your spreadsheet and how much of it you actually want to print. So, for example, I've got our charts spreadsheet up in front of me, and if I go to File and to the Print menu, in the Print Preview area just here, you can see that it's cut off the chart, the pie chart that we've added on the right hand side, and it's put it onto a second page. That doesn't look great at all. I really would like it to all appear on one page. If I go back to my data, you can see that this is probably going to fit a landscape page better than a portrait page. So if I go to page layout, the first thing I can do is set the orientation to landscape. The second thing I can do is I can set the print area, which is the area that we'd like Excel to print. So I'm going to drag over to column O, and I'm going to click on print area and set print area. So what we've done there is we've told Excel the area that we would like it to print. And you can see that I've selected the columns, but Excel does know that my spreadsheet stops after the bottom of the charts, so it won't go on and try to print lots of data or blank sheets of paper after that. It does know that my spreadsheet stops after those charts. So at the moment we know that that doesn't fit on one page. If I go back to the File menu and go back to Print and Print Preview, it almost fits on one page now, but still not quite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the margins, and I'm going to change the margins to narrow. I don't want lots of white space around the edge of the page. And in this menu just here, I can select the width of the document, so I can make the entire document fit to 1 page in width. So if I click on that, and let's go back to the Print Preview menu again, you can see that it now fits on the page quite well. You can also limit that maximum height of the document, so if you actually wanted to squeeze it onto 1 page high, if it was going slightly over 1 page, then you could do that too. And you can also set the size of paper that you're using here as well. So that's the first step in trying to work out exactly how to print your document. And if you are struggling to fit your work onto 1 page wide, or however you want to do it, you do need to play around with various different things. It's a bit of a process of trial and error sometimes if you've got a big spreadsheet that you're trying to print. Some quick things that I would suggest are hiding any columns that you don't need to appear on the spreadsheet that you're printing out, minimizing the column widths or the row heights so that you haven't got lots of white space. So for example, the month column that I have just here, if it was all the way over here, then I would make sure that it actually only just displays the data that we want it to display without a huge amount of white space in there. And the other thing that you can play around with to try and get things to fit on the page are the page margins. So there are some built-in styles here, normal margins, wide margins and narrow margins. You can actually go quite a lot narrower than the narrow margins. So this has 0.25 inches left and right margins. That's quite narrow, but still got 0.75 at the top and bottom, which is probably a little bit wider than it needs to be. So you can create your own, so you can click on custom margins and you can set the different margins for each part of the page. And you can also center your work on the page horizontally or vertically too. From there, to print your work, you can go back to the print menu just here, and we'll show our print preview. That all fits on the page quite nicely. So you can select your printer just here. I currently don't have one set up, but you should see any printer that you've got installed on your computer visible just here. And the rest of the menus here are pretty similar to a print menu that you would see in any other program. One great additional functionality in Excel is that you can also export your work to PDF, which is kind of a little bit more like printing than it is like saving. If you go to the Export menu just here, you can see there's a Create PDF or XPS document, so I would click on that, and from there you can save as PDF. You can also click on this option sheet here and you can select exactly what you want Excel to save as a PDF. When I say it's similar to printing, what I mean is it will only print the current sheet. So if you're in a workbook that's got 10 sheets in it and you go to this PDF menu, you're actually only going to get the active sheet you're working on unless you go into this menu and change it. So here you can see publish what, and selection would be whatever cells you've got selected on the page at that time. Active sheets would print it to PDF exactly like it would print it to your printer, and the entire workbook would print all of the sheets in your workbook to the PDF file. So just be aware that that is a really useful functionality if you want to save a workbook as PDF. That's really useful if you're sending a report, because it means that people can't mess around with the spreadsheet, they can't change the data that you've put into that PDF. And also for larger files, it can mean that when you're emailing these files around, a PDF tends to be a smaller file type than an Excel file. Okay, so that's how to set up print margins, how to print your work, and how to export it to PDF.